But as a case study in the power of culture, I really am extremely impressed with it. I wrote about it in my previous book, Practical Reality. It's a company called DaVita, now based in Denver, Colorado, biggest kidney dialysis provider in the United States. Gets a lot of money from insurance providers and Medicare to do that. It's really one of the great culture-driven turnaround stories I have ever researched and written about. A guy named Kent Thiry takes over as CEO of DaVita probably 20 plus years ago now, and the company is an absolute basket case. Revenues of $1.5 billion, just hemorrhaging red ink as far as the eye could see. Publicly listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Stock is $1 a share. It's on the verge of being delisted. Banks are on the verge of foreclosing on the company. Fast forward to today, revenues of $8.5 billion, hundreds of millions of dollars a year of profit, market value now of $12 billion. It was at $1 a share when he took over. Now it's $70 a share, from $200 million value to $14 billion of value. It's really one of the great financial turnarounds in the healthcare sector in the last 20 years. But to me, that's interesting but not important. As I said, to me, what's special about this is that it's the most culture-driven turnaround I've ever seen. I would honestly say, I don't think I've ever met a company that thinks both more rigorously and more creatively about the language, the rituals, the touchstones of what defines life at this organization. What does it mean to be a colleague, a teammate, a member of this company? When you walk into work on Monday morning, what are we signing up to do together? It's not just culture. It's a really deep sense of belonging. Even the name, when Ken Thiry took over 20 years or so ago, the name of the company was Total Renal Care. It kind of sounds like someone's going to send a probe somewhere you don't want them to send. And things began to turn around and get better, and his colleagues said, geez, you know, the name is so clinical, so sterile, it doesn't really get to what we're trying to do. And Ken Thiry said, okay, sounds great. I'm not going to come up with a new name. A lot of nurses work for DaVita. He formed a committee of nurses. He said, here's a pot of money, hire a consultant if you want. Come up with 3 new names for the company, and we'll let everybody in the organization vote on it. And they did a good job. They had a very medical name. They had a very legal corporate name. And then they had this name DaVita, which in theory is from the Italian to give life, which if you're a dialysis company is actually a pretty good name. And they had an election night. And they took out ballrooms in all the cities that the business people gave, and they cast their ballots and they tabulated them. And this name, he voted for the more boring corporate name, but this name, DaVita, won in a landslide. They had a balloon drop, bands played, it was all very exciting, to the point where a bunch of employees wrote this corporate fight song on DaVita to the tune of On Wisconsin, sorry, Michigan State fans, On Wisconsin. And when I would go to the dialysis clinics during my research, I'd ask some of the nurses or technicians, you know, sing me a stanza of, and they would just, you know, get up and they would belt this. It's like kind of, you know, wonderful and weird at the same time sort of thing. They do a lot of training, just as I'm sure, you know, they got to keep everybody up to speed. Everybody, even like the most basic entry-level people get like at least 5 days of training a year.